right, what's going on, guys? Andre Hagel Jr. here from Client Ascension with my good friend and our mindset coach, Mario Lanzarotti. And in this video, we wanted to quickly introduce to you something that we've been working on behind the scenes, along with Daniel, Dan, and Christian as well, the other founders here at Client Ascension, which is the Client Ascension Credo, which to us is going to be a really important piece to our community as we continue to grow, scale, and build. We have a lot of new members flooding in, and really we wanted a way to not a way, but really like a set of laws essentially to reflect back on as we grow, so that we can remember what we stand for and what's important to us, because a lot of things get lost at scale. And so we really want to protect the culture and the values that we value here at Client Ascension. And so I reached out to Mario just because I know he's a big part of really impactful groups all around the world, similar to what we have ambitions to become with Client Ascension. And he guided us through, what was it, 4 or 5 sessions, I believe, a journey to
Three, actually.
3 sessions, okay, to establishing a credo, which we'll introduce here on this call. But I just want to let Mario say a few words as well, and then I'll do a screen share and walk you guys through what we've come up with.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andre. And I'm honored to be here with you today. And I am happy that you decided to watch this replay because today we're going to dive into the Client Ascension Credo. And here's why this is also really valuable to you, because what we did is we distilled the values and the principles, which are really the values in action that helped Andre and the rest of the co-founding team to build Client Ascension and to make it such a successful uh, recipe. Now, the reason I say this is because I'm inviting you to adopt a similar, maybe even the same kind of mentality to build your business and to look at how do you treat people within the company, within the culture to ensure the highest level of success and satisfaction.
And that's the biggest thing that I've noticed this year. The time we're recording this is right at the tail end of 2022, going into 2023. And one of my goals and our company goals going into the new year is really just to be more professional and more accountable to living by values that we all find very, very important. And I think once you hit a certain level in business, you start to realize the responsibility you have as a business owner and as a leader in a community to guide people with principles. And this is really just a tool set that we'll be using, our team members, our coaches, and like Mario said, you as well as community members and students, to just live by example and to have the most success with everything that we're doing. And so without a further ado, I'll do a screen share here of the Client Ascension Credo, which you see here are just 10 principles that, again, were distilled really through 3 sessions between myself, Dan, Daniel, and Christian, the founders here at Client Ascension. To live by that will ensure every team member at Client Ascension and student in Client Ascension will get the most out of their experience with Client Ascension. So I'll walk you through all 10 of these. And if you guys have any questions or comments on anything you hear today in this video, please let us know. And one thing I'd really like to happen as we roll this out is for community members, students, you guys listening, to be aware of what are the 10 principles to live by and pointing them out as you see team members, coaches, myself, Mario, other students live by these principles and celebrate the fact that this is being exemplified. So without further ado, let's go into the 10 principles. So the first principle that we define here was that we'll go the extra mile to support one another while also being empathetic to people who are just starting their growth journey. And this is something that I see in our industry, like coming from Money Twitter, especially. There's a really big ego cloud that kind of surrounds the industry of maybe there are people that you think are too far ahead to relate to or that might want to help you. And I think what's really important with this principle is the fact that we're empathetic to wherever you are on your growth journey. Wherever you are on your journey is somewhere that we've been, or somewhere that maybe not I've been, but maybe Mario's been, or maybe some of our other coaches have been. And we'll be empathetic to wherever that is and will go the extra mile to support you, no matter where that is you are. And I just think in other communities, there's a lot of shame around numbers and progress and comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 27. But we don't have any of that here in Client Ascension. We even see this in the wins channel. Maybe you notice this as well, Mario. Like some of the students will come in and say, "Hey, I just had like a small win." Like they'll call it a small win, which to them is really a huge win. It's just when they're looking at what other people are achieving, to them it might seem small. But something that I want to practice and I want to get across to every student is you're where you're at in your journey. That's exactly where you need to be, and that's exactly where we're gonna serve you at.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a great point that you're making. And as an invitation for the community here within Client Ascension, these principles are supposed to be a blueprint for yourself as well. Asking yourself, how can I go the extra mile for someone here on the Slack channel? Maybe that means for you, if you hear someone, hey, I'm looking for an assistant, hey, I'm looking for a client in this way, what could be the extra mile for you, rather than just say, oh, I don't know. Maybe that means making a phone call. Maybe that means posting that person on your Twitter or on your LinkedIn or whatever, right? But do that extra mile, because it pays back in tenfold ways. And the empathy that is part of that is exactly as Andre says, like, don't ridicule other people, don't ridicule yourself. Own where you are, because where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. And 5 years down the line, you don't want to look back at where you were and say, oh man, that was such a terrible time, I'm so glad that I'm not there anymore. Enjoy the whole journey, and bring that joy to other people as well that are on that same path with you.
100%. And I think that's what's actually going to fast track your way to getting to where you want to be. Because I just seen a lot of people kind of sulk in their sadness or in their uh, unsatisfaction with being where they're currently at. And that can really delay success and just the growth that you'd experience otherwise. So moving on to number two, our second leading principle is we respond thoughtfully and respectfully to others, especially when we do not agree with others' point of view. When you have a community like Client Ascension, where people are coming in from all over the world, of all different age groups, of all different upbringings, you're going to get a diverse culture. You're going to get a diverse set of people that you're not going to agree with everything that they have to say. I also don't agree with everything they have to say. And even with our team members here at Client Ascension, we have team members in the US. Mario's sitting there in South Africa. We have team members in the UK. We have team members all around the world. Again, different ages, different upbringings, different disciplines. And so we're not always going to agree with each other. But that's not what's important. What's important is that we always treat others with respect and we respond thoughtfully. So in a community like Client Ascension, there's all these messages being thrown around, and especially in Slack, it's really easy to just join the chat in Slack, right, and just send really casual messages and really get caught up in a conversation. But I want to challenge you, and I want you to also challenge us as coaches and as leaders and as team members to respond thoughtfully. And it's something that I'm spending a lot more time with going into the new year is rather than just trying to, and the way I see this really is like instead of trying to respond to everyone and not doing it with as much depth because of the limits on time, actually spend the time, respond thoughtfully, and give more time to actually respond back to everyone else. That's the way I look at it. But it's also just a
Yeah.
level of respect for where people come from, all walks of life. And yeah, that's the way I look at number two.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. And to add to that, there's two words that I want to highlight. There's the number one word is respond. Responding is the opposite of reacting. A lot of times what we tend to do is we tend to react to people when we see someone saying, the world is X, Y, and Z. You're like, how dare you say that? Before you go into that reaction, take a moment to just breathe. Breathe, take a deep breath in and say, you know what? That's simply their opinion, has nothing to do with me. And if you can bring a little bit of curiosity to it, all of a sudden you start creating possibilities. Because normally you would dismiss people that disagree with you, like, no, fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, don't want to talk to them anymore. But maybe there is a deeper level there where you're like, oh, actually, that's just their opinion. but really they're actually a nice person. Just because they look at things a different way doesn't mean that I cannot, have a good relationship with them. Doesn't mean you have to marry them, but at least be respectful with one another, because it creates an environment for people where they also feel comfortable sharing their real opinion. And sometimes when they share their opinion, they actually realize, oh, that opinion is rather outdated. There's a better one that I can adopt. So you give people a chance to grow and expand.
Yeah, this is why Mario is the mindset coach, because he just puts these things so elegantly, and I love it. So that was number 2. Number 3 is one of my personal favorites. So in this one, we encourage each other to build businesses around our ideal lifestyles, and we help people shorten the uncomfortable growth periods. And the reason for me and for Mario, and I know most other business owners, for building a business in the first place is so that we can unlock what we all refer to as the freedom lifestyle. And so we want to encourage people to build businesses around that freedom lifestyle. So rather than creating a business that takes all of your time, stresses you out, has a negative impact on your personal relationships, your family, whatever it may be, we want to encourage you to build a business in a way that's sustainable and mostly just fun. Like, we want you to enjoy the process of building a business. We don't want you to just build a business because it's the right thing to do, right? And we also understand that when building a business, it is really high risk, but also high reward. And Daniel, one of our other co-founders here at Client Ascension, is known for calling the first 6 to 12 months of building a business your indoctrination period, which can sound really daunting and scary, but it's also part of the reason why we started Client Ascension, is so that we can help shorten what we call the uncomfortable growth period. So for Daniel and I, it might have taken 2 or 3 years to go through an indoctrination period, but because you're now in Client Ascension, it might only take you 1 to 3 months or to 6 months. It really depends on the person and what you're trying to achieve. But really, everything that we're doing, all the efforts we're making, are to help you to build an ideal lifestyle around your business, and to shorten the uncomfortable growth periods when you're first starting out.
Mm. I think this is a really, really powerful point that you make. And to add to that is the focus and the emphasis really here is on ideal. And it starts with the question that you ask yourself, because a lot of times entrepreneurs ask themselves the wrong question. They ask, what should I do? See, when you ask, what should I do? You're not thinking from ideal lifestyle. You're thinking from like, I wonder if this can work out. I wonder if somebody else did it. But what do you want? Ask yourself, what do I want? Don't just go for, oh, I got to make a 50K month recurringly. Maybe that's really not what you actually want. Maybe what you want is like 10 or 15K, but you only want to work like 4 hours per week and you're good. Right? And you just want to enjoy time freedom. So really think about what is the ideal thing for you personally. And then the way we help you shorten those uncomfortable growth periods is by actually showing up for the different calls that we offer throughout the week.
Perfectly said. Yeah, I think it's reflecting inwardly to figure out what it is you really want. And just because maybe we say, 100K months or 50K months, or people in the wins channel are achieving all these things, it might not be what you're actually looking for. And so, like Mario said, really spend time with yourself and reflect to see what is it that you want. And just because you make a decision on what you want today doesn't mean you can't go and change it later on, right? And
Exactly.
so that's the other
Exactly.
thing worth saying. Number 4 here is that we empower each other to become highly successful business owners who have both financial and time freedom. And I really want to point out the language we use here of business owners, because a lot of people come into Client Ascension and they're not business owners, they're freelancers, which there's nothing wrong with. But part of the reason why they join Client Ascension is to transition from being a freelancer to being a business owner. And the number one benefit of being a business owner is having equity in an asset that has value, right? And that's the biggest thing that we really want to help people to bridge the gap to. And by doing so, you'll have the financial freedom. And by doing so, you'll have the time freedom, because you're not a freelancer where everything is relying on whether or not you're showing up to do the work. You're going to have a team that you can rely on. You're going to have partners or co-founders you can rely on, right? Like, it's Mario and I sitting here doing this Zoom call specifically. not the rest of our team. The rest of our team might be on sales calls currently. They might be on calls with students. They might be enjoying a vacation, right? Not everyone has to be at every single moment in the business. And that's what we talk about with the time freedom. And we had an event, our first in-person event in 2022. And that was a huge theme as well, is because we had students in our program that were able to purchase tickets to the event, purchase flights, purchase hotel rooms, and also clear out an entire weekend on their calendar to show up to an event like ours. And that's something that really made me very, very happy and fulfilled, because it embodied this principle here, which is empowering other people in the world to have both the financial and the time freedom. And I think our event was like the first concrete evidence that we're actually doing this.
Mm. Love what you said. And, to add a little bit extra here is also when you're setting your goals, when you're planning ahead, a lot of you guys are setting your goals purely from a financial perspective. I want to hit 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K. Also set time goals. In what time and what amount of time do you want to generate this kind of revenue? Don't just go for the money, because if you only go for the money, then you don't think about the time, and you may end up working 6, 7 days per week, but then you hit your goal and you're like, oh, I hit the goal, but you are actually completely burned out. So both need to be an ongoing focus for you so that you can really think like an owner instead of like an operator.
Well said. Okay, so moving to number 5. This one is, I mean, all of these are important, and I'll probably say it at the start of each of them, but this one is so important for the students to understand, which is that we want to cultivate an environment for all feedback to be heard without punishment. And I feel like, from my experience, not only being in other coaching programs, but also just kind of watching how other students act in our coaching program, I feel like there's a sense of fear that if they spoke out or if they shared constructive criticism or feedback, and it doesn't even have to be negative feedback, it could also be positive feedback. But let's just use negative feedback because it'll probably be the most relevant to the part without punishment. They almost hold it back, and they feel confrontation is not worth it. And this is actually something that I worked on a bunch with Mario, is avoiding confrontational conversations. And now I'm sitting here saying that we want to cultivate an environment where your feedback is sought out. And I try to do this through check-ins with students. And when I check in with students, I always ask, what are the problems or the constraints you're currently facing in your business that we might be able to help with? And how can we do a better job with our program to help you to solve those more efficiently and more effectively? And there's always going to be ways that our program can improve. Like, we understand sitting here on this call, and I've talked to the other founders a whole bunch, like, Client Ascension has a long way to go as a community and as a coaching program that gets more consistent results for its students. In the way that we can fast track getting there or just improving continually is through our students' feedback. And I sit here and I look back at what we've achieved in 2022 and the changes that we've made to the community. And I would say 95% of the ideas and the changes we've implemented have come directly from student feedback. So not only is it encouraged, but we'll actually take action on it. Like, we'll do something about the feedback and the ideas that you as students in the community have to share. So I just want to say, like, we want to cultivate an environment for your feedback to be heard without repercussion. And it doesn't just have to be about the program. It can really be about anything else, but that's how I see this principle.
This is such an important point, and I want to highlight, the term in psychology is called psychological safety. It means that you feel safe enough within your own skin to express yourself without the fear of punishment, without someone saying, "Oh, that's stupid. Why would you say that?" Or, just fuck off, things like that. And this is especially something that I do on the Friday calls, where there's a difference between what I say and what you hear. There's a world of a difference. And oftentimes, when I say something and you hear it completely different, it's because of your own unconscious biases. And we want to bring forward an environment, and we encourage you to do the same in your conversations amongst each other, where you actually go to the other person and say, hey, what is it that you heard when I did or said XYZ? And you can speak without me interfering, and just let them speak. And even if they say things that are not even true, let them speak, let them be heard, because that's their chance to reflect and say, oh, actually, you're right. That you didn't say that. Oh, I misheard that. Okay, got it. Thank you for saying that. And when we have these conversations, we can have quantum growth happen because otherwise people just carry stuff with them. They don't express it. Or if you're not happy with the service that you're receiving, don't just hold that in until 4 or 5 months down the line and say, well, I didn't get that. Speak up right away from the start. That's why we're here. We listen to you. We encourage you to speak your truth so that we can learn and grow together.
Exactly. And I guess the biggest takeaway is just be a part of the community, right? Be a part. This is
Yeah.
your community as much as it is ours as a student. And you have a lot of power and potential to lead change. So number 6 here is that we encourage each other to build a brand that will leave a legacy. This is something that we started to really see take formation later on this year, which was when we started to add more content and support and coaching calls. Like we have the coaching call with Jeremy that helps with LinkedIn. We have the coaching call with Dakota to help with Twitter, and then with Logan and Nick to help with personal branding. So we have a bunch of support calls now and content and learnings around building a brand through content marketing. And so Daniel and I really realized the power of this through building Client Ascension because I'm not a big social media guy myself. I only have Twitter on my phone. I don't have Instagram, Snapchat, anything else. I actually just added YouTube and started posting on there. But for the longest time, it was just Twitter. And same with Daniel. And Daniel didn't even have like a personal Twitter account. He had like an alias account where he just called himself a wizard, as we all know. And so we were able to build brands on Twitter in a very short period of time. I mean, I started my Twitter account in April of 2021. So not even 2 years ago. Daniel, a little bit before that. And we were able to build Client Ascension and get all of our students into Client Ascension through just Twitter. And when we sat back and really looked at that and thought about it, we said to ourselves, like, we really need to encourage others to go out and build a brand as well. Not only that will sell their products and services and get people into their community, but that will leave a legacy, right? Like the wording here again is so, so important. It's not just I'm gonna set up this account so that I could sell more of my services or more of my online courses. No, it's so that you can leave a legacy, and you can do that with really good content. And Mario's been doing that for a really long time with podcast and with his communities and with his social media. That's actually how I found Mario, was through Instagram, and he's just done a really good job building his brand there. And even with your TED Talk, Mario. And so these are all potential things that we want to encourage people to try and do.
Yeah, and I think this goes deeper than just thinking about, oh, a brand can help me make more money, get more clients. This is also for you to think in terms of impact. What kind of an impact do you want your brand to make? Because there are a gazillion agency owners out there, but there's no one like you, no one with your story, no one with your thought process, no one with your ideas. And that brought together and combined with a human element where people can actually relate to you will create a really powerful brand that then naturally creates a legacy because it lasts for many years. Even it can even outlive who you are right now.
Exactly. That's the power in it. It's just like the old saying of like writing a book, right? A lot of the books that we read are from people that were way before our time, which is really cool to think about because their legacy has lived on for so long now. But moving to number 7, we commit to the highest level of service and make a continuous effort to invest in giving our community the best experience possible. So we commit to the highest level of service by bringing in the highest level people that we know from our network to serve you and what they know best, right? I could sit here and I could talk a little bit about my experience working with Mario when it has to do with mindset, but I can't talk about mindset as well as Mario can. And same with lead gen, with Nick Abraham being the lead gen coach. And so we've done a really good job of bringing in experts in subject matters that we know are really important to growing a business and growing an agency. which is how we're committing to the highest level of service. We've also recently added a community manager in Trina, which you all know by this point, who does a really good job cultivating uh, and condensing all the information and making it a lot easier to digest and more relevant to each and all of your guys' specific journeys. So we're very committed to a high level of service. And the reason I'm confident in saying this is because we're continually investing in giving our community the best experience possible. Just last night, from like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., I was just watching a bunch of videos from this program that we invested in by Cole Gordon. And the videos were talking about course and coaching fulfillment. And there was something in there talking about client success managers and account managers and giving each student a more personalized one-on-one experience. And I'm writing down all these notes and talking to my co-founders about how can we implement this? How can we deliver a better experience to each and every student that goes through our program? And really, how can we ensure a higher success rate for all the students that go through Client Ascension? So we're fully committed. I could say this in full confidence because this is how Client Ascension has gotten to the point where it's at today. Is like we're committed to the highest level of service, and that's what we want to be known for and remembered for in the coaching industry.
And this is also something to reflect upon for your own business, right? A lot of agency owners that I speak with struggle with retaining clients. They keep going for new business as opposed to looking at the lifetime value of the customers that they have and using those to get more referrals. And the higher you go in service, the easier it will be for you to deliver quality and to have lifelong customers. So this is also an environment for your own business to adopt the processes and the kind of principles that you see here in action with Client Ascension. Say, hey, how can I do the same thing? How can I, make my clients go, damn, wow, this was incredible. And sometimes that might mean throwing in a free call, throwing in a free analysis, throwing in a free whatever your thing is that you're offering for them to go, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. Send them a book. I remember I sent Andre a book before, or, did little things when I came to visit him in Tampa for the first time after years of online interactions. Like he made such an effort to make me feel really good. He took me to a freaking theme park and, he carved out time just to be with me, made me feel really, really special, made me really feel connected to what's happening here. And that's why we have this super high level of quality. So the invitation is do the same thing.
Love it. Yep. And one thing you pointed out there is so important, and it's how I get most of my value now from joining other coaching programs is imitating what other businesses and successful coaching programs are doing. And there's a lot to learn just from imitating and watching how we're running Client Ascension, which is just so cool to me. It's like watching game film if you're a sports fan. But moving on to number 8. So in this one, we hold each other accountable to the highest standard of excellence and strive to do more than what is expected of us. And so accountability is a huge thing, and it really hits on what we talked about in number 7. Uh, Holding each other accountable to doing these things is so key. And part of how we're doing that is through Trina and through community managers and through client success managers and account managers, which will start to roll out more in the new year. But coaches also do this, right? They make a continuous effort to give more than what is expected. I know Mario does this, and he might not tell me directly, like, hey, I spent more time with this student. Because just for example, Mario, all that we ask Mario to do is show up to a weekly coaching call and spend some time in the community. But I've heard from other students how Mario has gone above and beyond, whether that's getting on a phone call with students, having like a really deep personal conversation with students through Slack DMs. And I've heard from other coaches as well that they're actively doing these things. And students are doing these things as well. If you go through the opportunities channel in Slack, there's always students trying to add value or give back to the community, which is obviously more than what is expected of a student, right? We're supposed to be serving the student. Meanwhile, the student is serving the community, which is so beautiful to see. And I think not only can the coaches be held to the highest standard of excellence, but also the students as well. How can you hold yourself to the higher standard of excellence and do more than what is expected of you, right? And an easy way is also through action items, right? If Trina tells you to go and send 1,000 cold emails and report back, go send 2,000 cold emails and report back. Or if Daniel says you should start posting on Twitter, take that to a whole nother level. Post more frequently or post more consistently. And if you do these things, it's just we've done them long enough to know like this is how you get the result. This is how you get the reward. And so we want to set the example by holding each other accountable as coaches and as team members so that you can do the same as community members and students.
This is really the bread extraordinarily successful, because it's not your intentions or your goals that are going to get you to the places where you want to. It's your standards, because you will always revert back to the level of your standard. You will rarely drop below your standard, right? That because you're going to maintain that. So the higher you raise the standard, the easier it will be for you to maintain the kind of habits that create this extraordinary level of success. And what Andre said, on a regular basis, I chat with people on Slack. I send them voice messages. I've been on calls with a couple of them. I have one-on-one clients with some of you guys. And I really stress this. I can't stress this enough. It's like you have access to me, and I'm someone who comes with a mountain of wisdom, experience, and knowledge when it comes to human psychology and healthy high performance and really transformation. But only a few of you make use of that. And I keep saying it on the calls. This is a reflection of your standard, right? Your standard is lower. If your standard was higher, you're like, wait a minute. I'm surrounded by a wealth of knowledge, resources, and networks here. I'm going to apply myself and make use of that. And that's your standard that is speaking. So for the next year, raise the standard.
Love it. Yeah, and it comes back to identity, which I think you've done a really good job of helping me with uh is identity. So moving on to number 9. So in Client Ascension, we celebrate our victories through the wins channel and through you've seen client success interviews with Daniel, and like I've done student spotlight interviews, as much as we learn from our failures. And so this is really important because victories are great, right? Like accomplishments, wins, that's what we all get really motivated and driven and excited by. But a lot of times seeing those victories can make us really ashamed or scared of failure. But what we want to encourage and celebrate is learnings from our failures, because that is the building block. Those are the building blocks to the victories and the posts in the wins channel. Like I've seen countless times people post in the wins channel after reaching out to me and other coaches and showing up to coaching calls with failure after failure after failure. And I think the way Daniel explains this sums it up so perfectly, which is nothing happens for the longest time. And that's not necessarily true because you fail for the longest time, is what he's really saying. And then you win all at once. And I think that we have to do a better job, and students have to do a better job of not being shamed of their failures, being proud of their failures as this is a step in the right direction. And not only, oh, I failed, what's next is what can I actually learn from this and how can I show up differently the next time so that the outcome is different. And I'm more likely to be able to post in the wins channel and to share victories. So from my experience, failures, if looked at the right way, which is where are the lessons, what can I learn, how can I show up differently, is what actually leads to the victories.
Yeah. And when you truly embody this process of celebrating your victories, your wins from small to big, it doesn't matter, as much as you focus on celebrating the fact that you learn something every day when things are not working out the way you expect them, that makes you become a master of the process. Now you start detaching from the outcome, and it doesn't say like, oh, fuck the outcome. You're still focusing on getting the outcome you want. However, because you become so involved with the process, your process just jumps in quality, which means your outcomes will naturally become so much better without you trying to force that. So this point number 9, is really, really important. And I want to invite all of you to make that an ongoing daily practice to celebrate your wins and to celebrate your learnings.
And to celebrate your inputs, like you just talked about. And I actually heard Ed Milet say something about this on a podcast yesterday, which was your positive habits and your positive actions that are implemented today, you won't necessarily see the result until 6 to 12 months later. So what you do today, you might not reap the rewards until way later down the timeline. And that applies on both sides, because if you show up in a negative way and if you show up sloppy and if you don't show up with full intent, you'll see the negative repercussions actually a lot sooner than the positive ones. So like Mario said, really fall in love with the process, really fall in love with hitting all of your inputs, knowing that the outputs will be there in due time. So detach from the outcome, focus on the inputs. Love that, love that, love that. The final one here, number 10, is that we lead by example of what we're asking our clients to do in B's. And this is like so important to me. And I've talked to Daniel and Dan and Christian and all the other team members and coaches about this. And it's I think what gives coaching programs a bad rep, and it's the biggest threat to the coaching industry overall, is coaches not leading by example, not actually practicing what they preach. And I think the easiest telltale to that is results of the students, because if you practice what you preach, chances are you're going to be able to teach in a really effective way, and you're going to be able to help guide students along that journey because you've gone through that journey yourself. So I just think it's super important that we as coaches and team members are held accountable to implementing what we're telling you to implement, right? If you see us, or if you hear from us like, hey, you should do this or that, but you don't see us doing this or that, right? Like if Daniel's telling you you should go and post on YouTube a bunch and optimize for SEO, but you see his latest YouTube video is really lazily put together and is not optimized for SEO, or you see me talk about doing operations and creating SOPs for new processes, but when you ask me for an SOP, I say that I don't have one, right? This is not leading by example. But at Client Ascension, we lead by example. And it's at the core, we're teaching people how to scale an agency business the same way that we were able to scale our agency business and continue to do so to this day. And the other part of it is that I don't know everything about scaling an agency business. I know how I scaled my agency business, but that's not going to be the same as your agency business. And so another way we could lead by example of doing or asking you to do is by bringing in experts in different topics, right? Like Mario for mindset, Nick for lead gen, Dakota for Twitter growth, Dylan for appointment setting, right? And so we can bring in other experts that know these things better. And really, all this is doing is helping students to get better results quicker.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is, it's perfect that it's point number 10 because it sort of summarizes everything that we discussed today. And this is really the emphasis that I want to bring towards here is the final word that it says on that last sentence. And it says to do and be, because a large focus of entrepreneurship is about doing, but what presides doing is being. It's your sense of identity, and being also involves your emotions. It involves everything that happens inside of you. And it would be the same as you coming to the mindset calls on a Friday and me talking about principles of self-acceptance, of inner peace, of balance, of working in flow. And then you see me on, eating junk food all day. And then someone says something on Twitter and I go like, fuck you, bitch. How dare you say that? I would be a fraud, right? And I want you to start thinking about, what is the change that I want to see in the world? Even, and when the world includes obviously your business, what is the change that I want to see in my client's life? Is it just to help them get more revenue? If that's what it is, great, But if there's more to it, if there's, I want them to be free, I want them to be happy, I want them to feel, empowered, then how can you embody that? Right? Think of the words that Gandhi said. Gandhi didn't say, talk about this change, bitch about the change, point out the change, quote the change on Instagram. No, he said, be the change. So what is it that you need to start working on in yourself to be that which you're selling to the outside world. And it's not just a price tag, you're selling a lifestyle. So you got to be the embodiment of that lifestyle, because that will truly set you apart.
Damn, that was powerful. I don't think we designed it in a way for it to end like that, but yeah. So that's a wrap. That's the Client Ascension Credo. That was a fun conversation, Mario. I appreciate you facilitating that with me and working with me, Christian, Dan, and Daniel on putting this together. I think this is going to be a staple for our community as we continue to grow and go through new changes in 2023 and beyond. So I'm really excited to have this resource for ourselves, and our students and new team members to look back on, as time goes on, to always remember the principles that we want to live by. So thanks so much. If you're still listening, if you're watching this, we really appreciate it. We love you. We're so grateful to have you as part of our community. And if there's any questions, suggestions, recommendations, or conversations that you want to have with me, Mario, or any other team member, just know that we're always one Slack message away.
Peace out.